to the Abundance Club. I'm your host, Amy Wilkinson. Thank you so much for joining me today. In this episode, I want to share what I feel gets really overlooked when it comes to modern or mainstream manifestation, and why I work so deeply in bringing people back into resonance and awareness and alignment with the soul, why that is so foundational in this work before we even look at what it is that we're truly desiring, and how to know if what we're going after when we're looking at manifesting, when we're looking at our goals, dreams, desires, how to know if it's coming from soul or if it's coming from ego, because it's going to be coming from one or two places. And this is the difference between manifesting from embodiment versus manifesting from lack, and why so many people are manifesting from lack with the focus on getting something, acquiring something in order to feel a certain way or to be perceived in a certain way. How deeply ingrained this is within us as human beings, and how this time that we're in right now is really where we are so being invited by our soul. I want to look at how to know if that's occurring for you, like what expansion is and why your soul might be guiding you at the moment, and then how to know what's actually behind the desire, what's beneath the surface manifestation, to know where it's coming from, whether it's coming from your soul and your ego. And this can be a really fine line, because fear and control, which as humans we are really good at, fear and control can get really good at disguising itself in ambition, in going after your goals and dreams. And if you are a high functioning man, woman, ambitious, like I'm speaking from that place of knowing that I have moved through this, been through this, and I've seen the limitations, I've seen the way that the ego disguises itself, even in spirituality, even in manifestation, very much in manifestation. And ultimately, the result becomes a lack of happiness and fulfillment, even when the manifestation arrives, or an inability to hold it in the first place so it misses you. And this is what we want to try and avoid. This is why I look at what is foundational, what do we need to come back to ensure that we are the version of ourselves who is ready to manifest what we desire, because it won't come in otherwise, and how we can create from a place of lasting fulfillment so that we're not always searching for what the next thing is, because that's a perpetual loop that so many of us are caught in. We are not meant to fill a void with our desires, right? And that's how we know that our desires are rooted in lack and not enoughness or scarcity or control, and how to know when they're coming from the ego, when we are trying to fill a void. So this episode is going to ask you to sit back and slow down and feel into what is underneath the hood, what is beneath the surface here. What is my soul? What is that deeper, truest aspect of myself? What are they asking of me? Because ultimately, we want to be allowing ourselves to be led from that place if we are going to live our lives in lasting joy, fulfillment, freedom. That's not to say that we're not going to have bumps in the road. That's not to say that we're not going to have challenges. We're here having a human experience. We learn a lot through those challenges and through contrast. But what this will help you in how you navigate that, whether you're coming from that place of not enoughness when you're navigating these challenges, or whether you're coming from that place of faith, of trust, of knowing that you are held, of knowing that no matter what is occurring in your life right now, it is for you. This is a difference in coming from that victim consciousness of feeling that we are at the effect of what's occurring in life, to coming from more of that empowered place of knowing that I am a conscious co-creator in my life. I am not a bystander. So, all of this is to empower you to come from a place of soul, to come from a place of curiosity, to come from a place of empowerment when you are co creating your life, because you right now have the capacity to do that. That's not question, right? And I just want to make this really clear when we're starting out. We have those desires because it's available for us. It's here in our field, it's orbiting, it's in our awareness because it is for us, which shows that it is possible. That's not question. The biggest question is, are you able to receive it? Are you open enough to receive it? Are you the one who can hold it? When we're coming from lack, when we're coming from not enoughness, when we're coming from fear, which is so ingrained in our society, when we're coming from that place, we're often not able to hold it, or we're never going to feel like whatever it is that we're bringing in is enough. I wonder if you relate to that. When a manifestation has arrived and it doesn't actually feel good. You're still feeling the same feelings beneath that. So sit back, enjoy this episode. Please make sure before we dive in any further that you have hit the follow or the subscribe button on whatever platform that you are listening to this on. You can be watching this now on either Spotify or YouTube. So feel free to jump onto those channels and follow along as well. That keeps you in the club, receiving notifications when episodes drop. And the other thing that I want to say, if you are resonating with any of this content and you are wanting to move from simply consuming information and content into more of an embodied path, into more of becoming the conscious co-creator in your life, then Soul Power is my immersive 3-month program. We start next month in June. So even if you're listening to this after this, you can jump into the next round. But this is my most immersive group mentorship program, which takes you through all of this. This is a full identity shift. And you're going to understand through this episode why that is so important, why coming back to soul is so important. This is the program where I walk you through it alongside you, where it supports you to anchor in your highest timeline. It's the program that changes everything. So make sure if you are following along, this does resonate for you, feel free to click on the link in the show notes and see if it's calling for you. All right. So, one of the things that we need to be aware when we're on this manifestation journey is to shift our focus from getting. We need to stop trying to be good at getting things, right? At the acquisition. And this is often the silent fear behind ambition, that silent fear that's driving ambition is this feeling that I need to get. And we can take this wherever we are, whether this is in the workplace, whether this is how we've been, and all of a sudden we awaken onto this spiritual path. We can take this into spirituality. We can take this into manifestation because so many of us are trying to get really good at manifesting. So much so that we become hyper focused on the outcome, on the desire. So just notice if when I'm speaking in this episode, if you can relate, if there's parts of you that are like, yeah, I noticed that within myself. Okay, so when we are hyper focused on something, what immediately happens is we're hooked into it. We are attached. We are controlling. So when we're controlling, we're not coming from a place of trust, which means we're not actually working alongside the divine. Now, you have probably heard me speak about this in other episodes. And if you haven't, feel free to go back and take a listen because I talk about this a lot, the importance of co-creating alongside the divine. We are not doing this journey alone. But when we are in hyperfocus, when we are in control, when we're so focused on getting it, we're basically sending a signal out to the universe that says, I don't trust that you can bring me what it is that I desire. I don't trust that you've got my back. So I'm going to do all of the things that I feel like I need to do in order to achieve XYZ, in order to manifest this thing. And the universe is, of course, going to allow you because the universe just says yes, it's affirming. So we're then not harnessing the energy that's available. We're not coming from our true nature. We are not coming from our soul, because our soul is always going to ask us to partner with the divine. So, where are we coming from then? We're coming from our ego. We are coming from the part of us that's rooted in lack, fear, separation, not enoughness. So our soul is always going to lead us towards fulfillment, towards expansion, towards freedom. And it's going to do that from a place of knowing that it's already whole, that it's already enough, that it's already worthy, that it's already loved. So you know when you're operating from soul is you feel all those things. Your foundation is knowing, I know who I am. I know I'm enough as I am. I know that I'm worthy as I am. I know that I'm loved as I am. That is the essence of a soul. Now, conversely, ego is going to lead you to more searching. It's going to lead you through more of a need, more control. And the reason that is because it never feels like it's enough. It believes in lack, fear, separation, and it never feels like it's enough. So it's coming from this unworthy identity. It's really important to know that we all have these voices. We all have this aspect of ourselves, which is why it's so important to get to know, when am I operating from ego? When am I operating from soul? Who am I making choices as? Who am I allowing me to lead as? When we're operating from our ego, which is where most people are operating a lot of the time, some all of the time, right? Most operate from here because most people believe, as I am, I'm not enough. As I am, I'm not worthy. There's something that I need to do to attain worth. There's something that I need to do to feel enough. So we are trying to create then from an unworthy identity, and an unworthy identity cannot hold the big manifestation that you are desiring. It can't sustain it. So it will either actualize it, it'll either come in and lose it, or it'll come in, but there just will not be the fulfillment that it is that you are truly desiring. And so we will keep then chasing, we will keep going, what's the next thing that I need to feel a certain way, because we're trying to fill a void. Manifestation, and this might seem contrary to what you've heard before or to what you think, manifestation is not about achieving or acquiring certain desires or goals. We don't need to get good at manifesting. So I just want to put this aside for a moment, because so many of us are focusing on getting good at manifesting, and we're taking the same identity, the same level of control, the same fears, the same worries and doubts and adaptive patterns into the manifestation process. So we're disguising the fear and the control as spirituality. And that might be hard to hear, but it's really important. The sooner that we can realize this, the sooner we can come home and meet ourselves on that deeper level of truth that creates lasting change, that creates lasting fulfillment. So we don't need to get good at manifesting. Instead, we want to get good at being the manifester. What does that mean? We want to get good at our becoming, at being our most magnetic self, so that the manifestation happens on autopilot as a byproduct. We're not as focused on it. Remember, the hyper focus, we're in the clinging, we're gripping. Manifestation can't come in when we are in that state of neediness and gripping. So we want to ask ourselves, and this is where the soul work comes in. Who am I? Who am I on that deeper level beneath the surface wanting? And this is where, you can start to journal this, you can work with a coach, you can start to ask yourself some of those deeper questions like, why do I want what I want? Before we go into any of this work, you really want to understand the impulse that sits beneath the desire. Why do I want what I want? How do I think it's going to make me feel? And these are the questions that can reveal some of the cracks that can show us whether we're coming from soul or ego, right? So how do I think that this manifestation, whatever that is, whatever it is that you desire, how do you think that that's going to make you feel? And then you can start to ask yourself, like, where am I not already allowing myself to feel that right now, to access those emotions right now, because it is available to you, because you are an infinite being. You are not separate from the light of the Creator. You are not separate from God. You are not separate from the divine. So, where is it that I'm not already allowing myself to feel these innate feelings, to feel the freedom, to feel the joy? Because I can bet you that when you get to that question where you ask yourself, how do I want to feel? How do I believe I could feel when I have this certain level of income, when I'm in this soulmate relationship, when my business is a success, when I hit a certain number of followers, when I become a published author? Like, when you ask yourself that question, how do I think I could feel? You're most likely going to be met with these kinds of emotions: free, clear, light, at peace, right? None of that is separate when you know who you are on a soul level. It is your nature. So when we understand that the actual thing, all those things that I just listed, the money in the bank, the soulmate partnership, the home, the car, the job, the success, the accolades, the validation, whatever it is that you're seeking, when we understand that all those are simply byproducts of who you are, reflections of who you are, if you were to really understand this, you would stop everything right now. You would stop the doing and the strategizing and the goal setting and the hustling, and you would take the time to meet yourself at a soul level, to ask yourself the deep questions so that you can remember your inherent state, so you can remember who you are first and foremost without any of it. If you can get to that place where you stop needing all those things to feel a certain way and you remember that you are it already, you become your most magnetic self. Your desires find you. There is an inevitability about that. When you remember who you are, you realize that you are not separate from any of it. You are it. You are all of those things. You are an aspect of the divine, and therefore everything you seek is available to you. When you understand this, you start to see your desires not as things to acquire or things to attract in, but simply as life wanting to express itself through you. Can you feel the difference between acquisition and allowing? If this desire is here, it's because it's wanting to express itself through me. If the desire to write a book, become an author, be an artist, have a podcast, whatever it is, it's because that is life wanting to express itself through me. It is not to feel better about myself. That's when we know we're coming from ego. So that's the little distinction there. This is how you become your most magnetic self, when you know that you're not lacking any of it. When we feel like we lack something, we are operating not from truth, but fear. So in the work that I do and the work that we'll be doing in Soul Power as well, it's really getting to know who's the version of you that's leading you right now, that's telling you that you need to have this, that's saying that you need to do this. Like, we are so in our patterning most of the time. And I say this a lot, we're so loyal to an old identity that we don't even realize the reality that we are co-creating. The reality that the 3D world that we are printing because we stay in the patterning, which is why so many people will spend their whole life staying stuck doing the same thing because we're so loyal to an old identity that does not want to change, but that old identity does not believe it's enough. It's operating from fear, control, scarcity. This is the work, my friends, is to finally shift out of that once and for all. But we need to start to ask ourselves then, what am I afraid of? What am I afraid of losing? Right? We have to be willing to get to know ourselves on a soul level so that our soul, the essence of who we are, our truth, is informing our identity, is informing our personality, so that we can be so authentic in our desires that we start to know it's done. It's inevitability. It can't not. Law of vibration says like attracts like. We become the frequency of that which we desire. And when you understand this, you get really good at bringing your consciousness into your life and noticing when I'm going and circling around those same patterns because they're familiar, right? We even give a name to that alter ego identity that has been running the ship. And instead, we then also start to meet and get to know who's the evolved me, who's the future you that is guiding you forward. When you let her lead, when you make choices from her, this is how you collapse time. But we have to be willing to get to know ourselves. We have to be willing to stop leaving ourselves in order to become the manifester, the one who naturally receives. And so the inner shift always has to come first in order to refine your vessel. In Kabbalah, it says that there is endless light. There is infinite possibility that's available to us. Our job is to be the receiver, be the vessel. Our soul is the vessel that calls in the light. So we move through life and through the challenges in order for us to refine our vessel. Otherwise, it's like we're calling in streams of abundance. Imagine a stream of abundance that you are here to receive with a leaky bucket, with holes in your bucket, because you're still believing that you need that in order to feel a certain way. You're still operating from the unworthy identity, from not enoughness. So your task is to return to who you are before you falsely believed that you were not enough, or that you're not worthy, or that you're not safe. I've spoken about this before, how we can have all the desires, we can do all the mindset, we can think that we're ready to call in something, and our body, our nervous system is saying, no, this is not safe. Embodiment requires us to work with ourselves on the level of the nervous system and the subconscious so that we become magnetic to our desires. And that's the work we do inside this program. So when we access our true soul power, when we stop believing the lies the ego has been telling us, and we choose again, and we start to align with our whole self, that's when we begin to access our true soul power. And when you do this, all of those things that you desire come in because you know at the deepest level of your being, you know that you are whole, you feel whole. They come in because you're magnetic, because you don't need any of it to feel a certain way. And when the manifestation then does arrive from that place, it lands differently because it's no longer being used to fill emptiness. It becomes an expression of overflow rather than compensation. So one of the things that I also want to touch on before I close this podcast episode, because I get asked this a bit, can I still have fear then? Would I still have fear if soul is guiding me? And the answer is a resounding yes. Fear does not go away when you're operating from your soul identity, but you just get really good at working with it. We don't need to abolish fear. We're not meant to abolish fear. Fear is part of our programming, but it's also a survival instinct. But the problem is, most of us have been letting fear guide us and rule our choices, which is then holding us back from the expansion that our soul is guiding us towards. So, our soul is guiding us to expansion. What does that mean? It means that we are going to bump up against those voices, those parts of ourselves, the opponent voice that's still rooted in our conditioning, that still believes, I can't really do that. Who am I to do that? That's still worried about running out of money, that's still like whatever it is. So, fear is going to come up when we are on the precipice of expansion, when we are being guided by our soul to do new things. That is often when fear will come up the most. It's like often I'll speak with people when they know there's something big that they're being called towards. Or let's say, for instance, even a program that they want to enroll in or getting a coach, and it's going to stretch them because your expansion is meant to stretch your current identity because it's asking you to move into not who you've been, not operating on that same paradigm, but who you're becoming. So we're going to be asked then to make choices as the evolved identity. So yes, fear is going to come up and say, don't do that. That's scary. You can't afford it. When you choose your expansion, when you choose to make a choice towards your expansion, even when there's fears and doubts and worries, you strengthen your soul-led identity. You strengthen your magnetism. You start to anchor in your most abundant timeline because you decide, I'm no longer going to operate from my unworthiness. What is the abundant version of you saying? What is the future you who's living out their desires on autopilot? What do they say? Do they say, listen to your fear, stay back, don't make the decision that stretches you? Likely not. Likely they're saying, feel it. Feel that fear, acknowledge it, see it for what it is, the old parts of you trying to pull you back into familiarity, and make the choice as the version of you who trusts she's taken care of, who knows life responds to her energetic signal, and so she's choosing expansion rather than familiarity. When we do that, we open space for the universe to work with us. But the universe is going to ask us to take that step first. And this is the piece, that step can feel really, really uncomfortable. I think about things in my life where I have taken a leap, like putting our home on the market when I was in Brisbane and moving to the Sunshine Coast, moving to the beachside location when I had no idea where we were going, what we were going to do, if the kids were going to get to school, if I was going to find a house that I liked. Starting up my podcast when, a few years ago, maybe 4 years ago, like there was no way that I would share my voice in this way. I would do it in circles and spaces that felt comfortable to me, which was teaching as a yoga teacher in front of a room full of maybe 10 or 20 students. That felt safe and normal and comfortable to me. But when I was asked by my soul to get in front of a microphone and broadcast this around the world and do it in front of friends and family who know me as a certain identity, that I needed to release that and step into this, there was so much fear, right? And so we do it even with the fear. That's when we lead into our expansion. That's when doors open, not before you, my friends, right? It's really important to know we're not given that before. Your soul doesn't say, if you do this, I will open this way for you. It says, show me that you can do this and trust enough. And then let's see what happens. You have to make that first move. Do the thing that frightens you. Do the thing that scares you. So your expansion, it's going to ask a few things of you. And I'm talking a lot about expansion this year because this is the space that I'm facilitating with women to become their most magnetic self and to make themselves available for miracles, which is living things that feel, that don't make logical sense, that exist beyond the realm of logic and time and space, like when we become available for the miraculous. But also, this is the biggest calling of this time is to lean into your expansion because we are bringing through a new paradigm through our becoming, through the choices that we make. So you're not just doing it for you, you're doing it for the collective. You're leading a way for those still to come, for your children, for other people in your circle. And that's why it can feel so big. That's why it can feel so scary because you know that calling for more, and I'm not talking about acquisition way, for something bigger that's leading you, for the surrounding light that's calling you forward into your future, it can feel frightening. It can feel scary because we have to be able to leave behind and dissolve the old identity and the part of us that doesn't believe that they're enough. They can't come with us on that journey. So, your expansion is going to ask you to deepen your faith, to trust, and to make moves before there is evidence. So, as the evidence, it's going to ask you to make moves as the version of you who already has what you desire. So, this is where we reverse engineer the process. It's going to ask you to allow the challenges that you're experiencing in life not to destroy you, not to collapse you, but to stretch you into a new level of becoming, right? It's not here to break you. Everything here is for you, even the contractions. They are preparing you to hold more. You are upgrading your vessel, and the discomfort is a portal. Trust me. I have gone through periods in my life that have felt so uncomfortable that you haven't wanted to be there. I relate this to like childbirth, when you're having a contraction and there's that part of you that just wants to escape. I don't want to go into this because it's uncomfortable, because the pain is so much, but it's a good pain because it's preparing you. And the more that you actually let yourself lean into and go into the contraction, the quicker you get, the more expansion you experience, literally, and the quicker you get to receiving the manifestation, which is that beautiful baby in your arms. Okay, so expansion is going to ask you to see this resistance as an opportunity, not as a stop sign. God prepares you first. So we have to be able to embrace the void and the preparation and do the inner work that's required to up-level the belief, to come back to a place where we remember who we are, that we know our worth, that we know that we're deserving. And this inner work, if we were to summarize this, like this inner work is what we are diving into, is what we're going to be exploring week on week for 12 weeks inside Soul Power. Like, honestly, to have it packaged in such a way that focuses on your soul for a month in terms of trust, in terms of meeting yourself on that deeper level, in terms of understanding your worth, like the foundation, and then moving into identity for a whole nother month and meeting this version of you, this future you who is already living that desired reality, so that we can anchor in that timeline and collapse time, and then into the magnetism and how do we actually receive it? How do we hold? I mean, it's incredible. So if this speaks to you in any way, trust that your soul has information for you here, that it's guiding you forward. And when you start to take the step, even when it scares you, you make room for the divine to come in and show you the way. When you act as the version of you who has the money, who has the confidence, who knows they're loved, they're worthy, you start to attune to your most magnetic self and life response. I'm going to leave you with that today. Please share this episode with one person that you feel would receive some benefit. There's some really potent reminders in here. I would love it if you could also offer up a review for the Abundance Club on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, and make sure you're following along on the platforms. If you prefer video content, come over to Spotify or YouTube. And feel free to also jump into my Instagram, Amy Wilkinson _ I think it's actually amy.wilkinson _ come and follow along because I give little short clips and some really potent reminders in that way. So it's another way you can stay connected. Thank you so much for being here. Enjoy your week and we'll connect again soon.